problem, but he's fixed quite a lot.
Question number 3, Chris Auchinvole.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To the Minister of Finance. How has the government's economic plan over the past 3 years laid the foundations for a more competitive economy based on savings, exports and productive investment?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the government had to set out to lay some foundations because the economy that we inherited was in very bad shape. It was dependent on excessive government spending, high levels of household debt. It was providing new but unsustainable jobs, and we became less competitive with the rest of the world. So we've got debt under control, we've changed the incentives for people to work and to save and to export, we've cut red tape, we've built infrastructure, raised education standards, and are increasingly focusing the economy on what we're good at, trading with the rest of the world.
The Honourable David Cunliffe.
To the Minister, since he's intent on a walk down memory lane, can he confirm that in December 2008... Can he confirm that in December...
Because I accepted that in answering the primary question, the Minister of Finance gave some attention to the matters that the government inherited, which was not absolutely necessary to answer that primary question. Out of courtesy, rather than going as normal to the primary questioner for the first supplementary, I went to the opposition to give the opposition the chance to question the Minister of Finance under those circumstances. But to start the supplementary question that way makes the Speaker look stupid for having departed from normal practice, because that is not the appropriate way to start a question. And it just makes it difficult in the House. And I accept that the Minister of Finance did not need to mention the Labor Party in answering that, or the economic situation that the government inherited in answering that primary question. And that's why I came to the opposition to ask the first supplementary question. And I'd like a supplementary question asked. The Honourable David Cunliffe.
Mr. Speaker, does the Minister recall in December 2008 saying that he had inherited government books that were in reasonable shape? And was that because government net debt, including the assets of the New Zealand Superannuation Fund, had been paid off to zero in the year preceding the election?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr. Speaker, yes, government debt was relatively low, but all the forecasts showed it was about to expand in a never-ending, almost geometric fashion as the accumulated mistakes and damage of the Labor government built up over time to create damage to this economy. And one of our mistakes, I suppose, early on was to underestimate just how much damage Labor had done to this economy.
Chris Auchinvole.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Supplementary to the Minister. How did the government's tax package last year help tilt the economy towards savings and exports and away from excessive borrowing and property speculation?
The Honourable Bill English.
Mr. Speaker, the tax package back in 2010, which had a total value of around $4 billion, cut taxes on work, on savings, on exporting and on investment across the board, and increased taxes on consumption with an increase in GST and tax on speculative property investment. This is going to have a benefit for the economy not over 1 or 2 years, but we believe over 4 or 5 years, because it fundamentally shifts the incentives in the economy in a way that will strengthen economic growth.
Chris Auchinvole.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To the Minister, how is the government's multi-billion-dollar infrastructure program helping to build a more competitive economy?
The Honourable Bill English.
Mr. Speaker, these are remarkably good questions. Mr. Speaker, the multi-billion-dollar infrastructure program, it was an effort by the government to ramp up investment even in the midst of a recession in New Zealand's long-term productivity. And that means we will have within a few years an upgraded electricity grid, have ultra-fast broadband rolled out around the country, an upgraded rail network, and of course we'll be most of the way through a very significant roads of national significance program.
Chris Auchinvole.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To the Minister, what benefits have the government's wide-ranging economic program delivered.
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr. Speaker, despite answering, I think, over 400 questions, and a handful of very good answers. Mr. Speaker, the benefits have been wide-ranging, but I want to focus on just a couple of benefits. One has been, despite a recession, New Zealanders have had small real income increases, and I think that is a fantastic achievement. And secondly, in the past year, this economy has added 43,000 new jobs. Mr. Speaker. And thirdly, our households, and New Zealanders deserve congratulations for this, our households now have positive savings for the first time in more than a decade.
Question number 4, the Honourable David Cunliffe.